The silent exit. I walked into my own living room expecting a quiet Sunday afternoon, and instead found my daughter and my wife sitting side by side on the couch, holding hands like accomplices before a confession, while my business partner, my wife's ex-husband, stood by the window with his arms crossed, wearing the expression of a man who'd already won something I didn't yet know I'd lost. My daughter looked directly at me, her eyes wet but steady, and said, "Dad, forgive me. I'm pregnant. With Richard. Richard, my wife's ex-husband, my business partner of 8 years, the man I'd trusted with contracts, investments, and access to every corner of my financial life." I felt my soul drop to the floor. I didn't know whether to cry, to scream, or to laugh at the sheer audacity of the betrayal unfolding in front of me. But I did none of those things. I stood there, silent, watching them. Watching the way my wife gripped my daughter's hand. Watching Richard's smug half-smile. Watching the way they all seemed to be waiting for me to explode so they could paint me as the unreasonable one. That's when I understood. This wasn't a confession. This was a performance, and I was the audience they needed to break. The silence stretched between us like a chasm. Catherine's fingers tightened around Lily's hand. Richard shifted his weight, his confidence wavering just slightly. They expected rage. They expected tears. They expected me to make a scene that would justify whatever they'd already planned. Instead, I nodded slowly, as if processing information in a business meeting. "I see," I said quietly. "Thank you for telling me." Catherine's eyes widened. That wasn't the script she'd prepared for. "David," she started, her voice dripping with false concern. "We know this is shocking, but we wanted to be honest with you. We're all adults here. We can handle this maturely." Maturely. The word tasted like poison in the air between us. I looked at Lily, this young woman I'd welcomed into my life, this girl I'd paid college tuition for, this person I'd considered my daughter for 4 years, and saw a stranger. Her tears looked rehearsed. Her trembling seemed practiced. "How far along are you?" I asked, my voice steady. 12 weeks, she whispered. 12 weeks, 3 months. Right around the time Catherine had started asking about my will with increasing urgency. Right around the time Richard had suggested we restructure the partnership to protect both our futures. The math was too convenient to be coincidence. "Well," I said, "you'll need to figure out what you're going to do. I need some air." I walked out of that room, out of that house, and got into my car. My hands didn't shake until I was 3 blocks away. Then I pulled over in a grocery store parking lot and gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. Before I go any further, I want to ask you something. If you were standing in that room right now, if the people you loved most in the world had just torn your life apart with a single sentence, what would you have done? Would you have fought back immediately, or would you have stayed silent and planned your next move? Leave a comment and let me know where you're watching from. I'd love to know I'm not alone in this. My name is David Brennan. I'm 58 years old and I lived in Scottsdale, Arizona. I'm not telling you this to brag, but to help you understand why what happened next hurt so deeply and why the stakes were so high. I built a commercial real estate development company from the ground up over 30 years. I started with a single duplex renovation in Tempe when I was 28, working construction during the day and learning the business side at night. By the time I was 40, I owned 12 properties. By 50, I had a portfolio worth over $40 million. Shopping centers, office buildings, mixed-use developments across Phoenix, Tucson, and Flagstaff. I have 17 employees who've been with me for more than a decade. I know their kids' names. I went to their weddings. When the 2008 crash hit, I took salary cuts before I laid off a single person. These people aren't just employees. They're the foundation of everything I built. I'm not a billionaire. I'm not famous. But I'm comfortable, very comfortable. And I worked hard for every single dollar. 80-hour weeks, missed holidays, sacrificed relationships. I poured everything into building something solid, something that would last. I met my wife, Catherine, 6 years ago at a charity gala in Phoenix. She was elegant, well-spoken, recently divorced, and had a daughter from her first marriage. Her name is Lily. She was 19 when I met her. Polite, smart, studying graphic design at Arizona State University. I never tried to replace her father. Richard was still in the picture, civil, even friendly. He was a commercial lender. And when Catherine and I got serious, Richard and I actually became business partners. He had connections with banks and investors that I needed. I had projects and experience he wanted to leverage. It made sense. We worked well together, or so I thought. Catherine and I married 4 years ago. It was a beautiful wedding in Sedona, surrounded by red rocks and clear sky. Lily was her maid of honor. Richard even gave a toast about new beginnings and blended families. Everything felt right. I thought I'd finally found the family I'd always wanted. I had no children of my own before this. My first marriage ended in my 30s. Amicable, no kids. We just grew apart. I'd focused on work for so long that I'd almost given up on the idea of family. Catherine and Lily became my world. But over the past year, things started to shift in ways I couldn't quite name at first. It began with small things, subtle changes that felt wrong but weren't quite alarming enough to confront directly. Catherine started asking me about my will. Not in a caring, let's make sure we're both protected way. More like she was taking inventory. She'd bring it up casually over breakfast. Have you updated your estate plan since we got married? Or, you should make sure Lily's included in everything, you know. She sees you as her real father now. I thought it was sweet at first, a sign that we were really becoming a family. Then I noticed the way Richard started showing up at the house more often. Not for business meetings, just around. He'd drop by to check on Catherine or to see how Lily was doing with her new freelance projects. Catherine never seemed surprised to see him. In fact, she'd brew coffee, set out pastries, and the three of them would sit together in the kitchen while I worked in my office upstairs. I started hearing whispers, laughter that stopped when I entered a room, conversations that shifted abruptly when I walked past, doors that closed when I came home early. One evening in late March, I came home from a site inspection earlier than expected and found Richard's black Mercedes in the driveway. I walked in quietly. The front door was already unlocked, and heard Catherine's voice from the living room, low and intense. He trusts you completely. That's the advantage. He won't see it coming. I froze in the hallway, my briefcase still in my hand. Richard responded, his voice calm and measured. As long as Lily plays her part, we're fine. He's softer with her than anyone. She's the key. She's nervous, Catherine said. We need to reassure her this is temporary. Once everything's transferred, we can... I didn't wait to hear the rest. I backed out silently, got in my car, and drove to a coffee shop 3 miles away. I sat in a corner booth for 2 hours, staring at my phone, trying to make sense of what I'd just heard. Transferred. Plays her part. He's softer with her. That's when I started paying attention. Really paying attention. Over the next 2 weeks, I watched. I listened. I pretended everything was normal while I cataloged every strange moment, every odd request, every inconsistency. Catherine started asking me to sign things without reading them carefully. It's just a household account authorization, honey, so I can handle bills while you're traveling. It's just an updated beneficiary form for your life insurance. The company requires it every few years. I signed nothing. Richard started suggesting we simplify the business structure and consolidate accounts. It'll make tax season easier, he said. Trust me, I've seen this save people thousands. I told him I'd think about it. Lily started spending more time at the house, always when Richard was there. She'd avoid eye contact with me. She'd leave rooms when I entered. Once, I walked into the kitchen and found her crying. When I asked what was wrong, she said, "Nothing, Dad, just stressed about work." But she wasn't looking at me, she was looking at Catherine. The final straw came 3 weeks after I'd overheard that conversation. I was in my office at home, reviewing contracts for a new development in Surprise, when I received an email notification from my bank. It was an alert about a request to add Catherine as a joint account holder on my primary business account, the one tied to my properties, my payroll, and my operating capital. Over $6 million. The request had been submitted online and required my electronic signature to finalize. I never submitted that request. My heart pounded as I called the bank immediately. The representative, a woman named Monica, who'd handled my accounts for years, sounded concerned when I explained the situation. Mr. Brennan, the request was initiated from an IP address that matches your home network. Someone logged in using your credentials. When? I asked. 2 days ago, at 2:47 p.m. I checked my calendar. 2 days ago at 2:47 p.m., I was at a city planning meeting in downtown Phoenix. I was nowhere near my home computer. Can you see what device was used? I asked. She hesitated. It appears to be a laptop registered to your home network, not your primary work computer. Catherine's laptop. I thanked Monica and asked her to flag the account for any further unauthorized access attempts. Then I hung up and sat in silence, staring at my computer screen. Someone in my own house, someone I trusted, had tried to access my accounts. Someone with my login information. Someone who knew where I kept my passwords. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in my office with the door locked and went through every document, every contract, every agreement I'd signed in the past 2 years. And that's when I found it. Buried in a stack of papers I'd signed during a particularly busy period last summer. A revised operating agreement for Brennan Development Group dated 8 months ago, notarized and filed with the state. The document listed Richard Calloway as a 50% equity partner, not just a contractor or consultant. It also named Catherine as the secondary beneficiary of my estate in the event of my death or incapacitation, superseding my previous will. I stared at that signature line. It looked like mine. The loops, the slant, the way the B connected to the R, all of it looked authentic, but I didn't remember signing it. I pulled up my email archives and searched for any correspondence with my attorney about revising the operating agreement. Nothing. No drafts, no requests, no meetings, no discussions about bringing Richard on as a full partner. I checked my calendar from last summer. The date on the document, July 18th, was a Thursday. According to my records, I was in Flagstaff that entire day, touring a property with a potential investor. I wasn't even in Scottsdale. Someone had forged my signature, or tricked me into signing something I didn't fully read, or somehow replicated my signature well enough to fool a notary. My hands shook as I photographed every page of that agreement. The next morning, I told Catherine I had a business trip to San Diego and would be gone for 3 days. She seemed relieved. Instead, I drove to a small office in Tempe and met with a forensic accountant and a private investigator that a colleague had recommended years ago. I'd never needed their services before. Now, I needed them desperately. I handed over everything: the fraudulent operating agreement, the bank access attempt, records of every strange conversation, every unexplained visit, every odd request. I need to know what's really happening, I told them, and I need evidence. The investigator, a former FBI agent named Laura Mendoza, looked at me with the kind of steady calm that only comes from seeing this exact scenario 100 times before. Mr. Brennan, she said, I'm going to tell you something you probably already know but don't want to believe. The people closest to you are planning to take everything you own, and they're using your love for them as the weapon. I nodded. I couldn't speak. Give me 2 weeks, she said. I'll get you proof. She got me proof in 10 days. The file she handed me was 3 inches thick. Financial records showed that Richard had been siphoning money from the company for at least 14 months. Nothing massive, 5,000 here, 8,000 there, but consistent. He'd been inflating invoices from subcontractors and pocketing the difference. He'd been charging personal expenses to company accounts and coding them as business costs. In total, he'd stolen close to $200,000. Phone records showed hundreds of calls and texts between Richard, Catherine, and Lily over the past 18 months. They'd been coordinating, planning, long conversations late at night, often when I was out of town. The investigator had also surveilled them. Richard and Catherine had been meeting privately at a condo in Tempe that Richard owned under an LLC. They'd been there together at least twice a week for months. Sometimes Lily joined them. But the worst part, the part that made my blood run cold, was buried in the text messages Laura had recovered from Lily's cloud backup. A conversation between Lily and Catherine from 6 weeks ago. Catherine, if you can get pregnant, it locks everything down. He won't fight us if there's a baby involved. He's too soft. Lily, Mom, I don't know if I can do this. It feels wrong. Catherine, you don't have a choice. We're too far in. Richard's willing to do his part. It's just biology. You're not actually going to keep it. Once the estate transfers, you can handle it however you want. Lily, what if he finds out? Catherine, he won't. And even if he does, by then it won't matter. The documents will be signed. The money will be moved. He'll have nothing. I read that message 5 times before I could breathe again. They weren't just stealing from me. They were weaponizing my love. They were using a pregnancy, a fabricated crisis designed to manipulate my emotions, as the final piece in a plan to strip me of everything I'd built. Lily wasn't a victim in this. She was a willing participant. I sat in Laura's office, staring at those messages, and felt something inside me go cold and hard. "What do you want to do?" Laura asked gently. I looked up at her. "I want to disappear, and I want them to have nothing." She nodded. "Then we need to move quickly." I didn't let them see me break. For the next month, I played the part they expected. I went to work. I smiled at Catherine over dinner. I asked Lily about her freelance design projects and listened with apparent interest. I even had a polite conversation with Richard about a new project proposal, which I had no intention of approving. But behind the scenes, I was moving pieces like a chess player 3 moves from checkmate. I met with a new attorney, not the one Richard knew, but a specialist in asset protection and estate law that Laura recommended. His name was Thomas Greenberg, and he'd spent 20 years helping people protect themselves from exactly this kind of betrayal. We drafted new documents. I revoked the fraudulent operating agreement and filed a correction with the Arizona Corporation Commission. I removed Catherine from any beneficiary designations and updated my will to exclude both her and Lily entirely. Then I did something they would never expect. I transferred ownership of my properties, every single one, into the names of my 3 most trusted employees: my office manager, Patricia, my site supervisor, Miguel, and my accountant, David Chen. We created a corporate trust structure with them as trustees. Legally, I no longer owned anything. On paper, I was just a salaried employee of my own company. The properties, the accounts, the assets, all of it was protected in a structure that Catherine, Richard, and Lily had no access to and no knowledge of. Patricia cried when I explained what was happening. "Mr. Brennan, I'm so sorry." "Don't be sorry," I told her. "Just help me protect what we built together." It took 6 weeks to complete the transfer. Every document had to be perfect. Every filing had to be airtight. Thomas worked 18-hour days to make sure there were no gaps, no vulnerabilities, and the entire time, Catherine, Richard, and Lily had no idea. I watched them move around my house like predators circling prey, unaware that the prey had already slipped the trap. The endgame came exactly 5 weeks after I'd received that file from Laura. Catherine sat me down at the kitchen table on a Saturday morning and slid a folder across to me. Inside were documents requesting that I sign over durable power of attorney to her in case something happened to me. She framed it as a loving gesture, something every married couple should do. "I just want to make sure I can take care of things if you ever get sick," she said. her voice soft and concerned. "You work so hard, David. You're under so much stress. You deserve to know someone's looking out for you." I looked at the documents. They were comprehensive. Medical power of attorney, financial power of attorney, authorization to make decisions about my property, my business, my health care. If I'd signed them, I would have handed her complete control over my life. I looked up at her and smiled. "Let me think about it," I said. Her expression flickered, just for a second. Surprise, maybe irritation. "It's just a formality, honey," she said, forcing sweetness back into her voice. "It doesn't mean anything unless something actually happens to you." "I know," I said calmly, "but I want to read it carefully. You understand?" She forced a smile. "Of course, take your time." That night, I heard her on the phone with Richard. I couldn't make out all the words, but the tone was tense, urgent. I heard my name several times. I heard the word stalling. The next day, Lily called me. She wanted to have lunch. We met at a cafe in Old Town Scottsdale. She looked nervous, picking at her salad, avoiding eye contact. "Dad," she said finally, "I know Mom talked to you about the power of attorney thing." "She did," I said. "It's really important," Lily continued, her voice shaking slightly. "We just want to make sure you're protected. You know, in case..." "In case what?" I interrupted gently. She looked up, startled. "In case something happens. You're not getting any younger and..." "Lily," I said, "I'm 58. I'm healthy. I run 3 miles every morning. My last physical was perfect. What exactly are you worried about?" She opened her mouth, then closed it. We just care about you." I reached across the table and took her hand. She flinched, but didn't pull away. "Lily," I said quietly, "I know about the pregnancy." Her face went white. "I know it's Richard's," I continued. "And I know this was never about caring for me." Tears spilled down her cheeks. "Dad, please, Don't," I said, releasing her hand. "Just don't." I stood up, placed 2 20s on the table and walked out. She didn't follow me. The final confrontation came exactly 1 week later on a Sunday afternoon. I'd been expecting it. Thomas had warned me. They're going to try one last push. They'll manufacture a crisis. They'll try to corner you emotionally. Be ready. I walked into my own living room and found them waiting for me, sitting in formation like a tribunal. Catherine on the couch, Lily beside her holding her hand, Richard standing by the window. The scene was staged, rehearsed. Lily looked at me, her eyes wet, and delivered her line. "Dad, forgive me. I'm pregnant. With Richard." I stood there in silence, letting the moment stretch. I watched Catherine squeeze Lily's hand. I watched Richard's expression, smug, confident, waiting for me to crumble. Catherine leaned forward. "David, we know this is shocking, but we're telling you because we want to be honest. We're a family. We can work through this together." "Together," I repeated slowly. "Yes," she said. "We'll need your support, emotionally and financially. Lily can't work right now, she's too stressed. And Richard is stepping back from the business to help her through this. You'll need me to sign those power of attorney documents," I finished for her. She blinked. "Well, yes, it would make things easier, for everyone." I nodded slowly. Then I pulled out my phone. "What are you doing?" Catherine asked, her voice sharpening. I didn't answer. I made a call. "You can come in now," I said into the phone. 30 seconds later, the front door opened. Thomas Greenberg walked in, followed by a notary public, Patricia, and 2 Phoenix police officers. Catherine stood up, her face draining of color. "What is this?" Richard's smug expression evaporated. "David." "What the hell?" "Sit down," I said quietly. "All of you." Thomas opened his briefcase and pulled out a stack of documents. He handed 1 set to Catherine, 1 to Richard, 1 to Lily. "Mrs. Brennan, Mr. Calloway, Ms. Calloway, Thomas said in his calm, professional voice, these are cease and desist orders. You are no longer authorized to access, claim, or make decisions regarding any property, account, or asset associated with David Brennan or Brennan Development Group. Richard shot to his feet. You can't do this. I'm a partner. I have a signed agreement. You have a forged agreement, Thomas interrupted, which has been voided and reported to the Arizona Corporation Commission. You're also under investigation for embezzlement and fraud. I'd suggest you contact your own attorney. Catherine's hands shook as she read the document. David, this is insane. I'm your wife. We're your family. I looked at her, really looked at her, for the first time in months. No, I said quietly. You were never my family. You were an investment, and I just divested. Thomas handed another document to the notary, who stamped it officially. Mr. Brennan no longer owns the properties listed in your fraudulent filing, Mrs. Brennan. Ownership was legally transferred 7 weeks ago to a corporate trust. You have no claim to any of it. Lily started crying. Dad, please, I'm sorry. I didn't... You didn't what? I asked, my voice cold. You didn't plan this with your mother? You didn't agree to get pregnant with Richard to manipulate me? You didn't send those text messages? Her face crumpled. I turned to one of the police officers. I'd like them removed from my property, please. The officer nodded. Ma'am, sir, you need to leave, now. Catherine found her voice. You can't throw me out. I live here. This is my house. Actually, Thomas said, this house is owned by the Brennan Development Trust. Mr. Brennan is allowing you 30 days to remove your personal belongings. After that, anything remaining will be disposed of. Richard moved toward me, his face twisted with rage. You son of a... The second officer stepped between us. Sir, I'd suggest you leave before this becomes a bigger problem. For a long moment, Richard just stood there, breathing hard. Then he turned and walked out, slamming the door behind him. Catherine and Lily followed, Catherine still clutching the cease and desist order, Lily sobbing. When the door closed behind them, the silence in the house was absolute. Thomas put a hand on my shoulder. You okay? I nodded. I couldn't speak yet. What do you want to do now? He asked. I looked around the house I'd bought, the furniture I'd chosen, the life I'd built, and felt nothing. I want to leave, I said, tonight. By the time they realized what had happened, really understood the scope of it, I was already gone. I flew to Vancouver that night. I'd been planning it for weeks. I had contacts there, opportunities, a chance to start fresh in a city where no one knew my story. I'd arranged for Patricia, Miguel, and David Chen to manage the Arizona properties remotely. The trust structure held. Every legal challenge Catherine and Richard threw at it was denied. There was nothing to fight. I didn't own anything they could take. The legal fallout took months. Richard was eventually charged with embezzlement and fraud. He pleaded guilty to avoid trial and served 18 months in a minimum security facility. His lending license was revoked. Catherine tried to claim spousal support, arguing that she'd been a devoted wife and that I'd abandoned her without cause. Thomas presented the evidence of her conspiracy, the text messages, the fraudulent documents, the coordination with Richard. The judge denied her claim and granted me a divorce on grounds of fraud and abandonment of the marital contract. She walked away with nothing. Lily. I don't know what happened to Lily. I stopped following after the divorce was finalized. I heard through mutual acquaintances that she'd moved back in with Catherine and that the pregnancy had ended, whether by choice or circumstance. I don't know, and I don't ask. I blocked all their numbers. I deleted all their emails. I cut every thread that connected us. I've been in Vancouver for almost 2 years now. I started a small consulting firm helping other developers navigate complex projects. It's nothing like what I had in Arizona, but it's mine, clean, honest, built on relationships I can trust, I live in a modest condo in Yaletown with a view of False Creek. I go running every morning along the seawall. I've made a few friends, cautiously, carefully. I don't talk about my past unless asked directly, and even then, I keep it vague. I'm not as wealthy as I was. The transition cost me. Legal fees, the cost of restructuring, walking away from a life I'd spent 30 years building. It all took a toll. But I'm comfortable. I can pay my bills. I can sleep at night. And most importantly, I'm free. Looking back now, I realize the biggest mistake I made wasn't trusting them. It wasn't even loving them. It was believing that love and family were the same thing. They're not. Family is something you choose, and sometimes the healthiest choice you can make is to walk away. The signs were all there, the subtle control, the isolation disguised as care, the requests that seemed reasonable but were designed to strip away my autonomy piece by piece. The manufactured crises meant to manipulate my emotions and cloud my judgment. If you're watching this and you've ever felt like someone in your life is slowly taking control, isolating you from others, making decisions for your own good, asking you to sign things you don't fully understand, pressuring you about your will or your assets, pay attention. Trust your instincts. Protect yourself. Document everything. Seek advice from people who have nothing to gain from your decisions. And if you have to leave, leave quietly. Don't announce it. Don't give them time to prepare. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Just go. I walked away from millions of dollars in real estate, from a company I'd built with my own hands, from people I'd loved with my whole heart. It hurt. It still hurts. But staying would have cost me more than money. It would have cost me my dignity, my autonomy, and eventually, my life. I made my choice. I protected what mattered most. Not my assets, but my freedom. And I would make the same choice again. David Brennan, empresário americano de 58 anos de Scottsdale, Arizona, construiu império imobiliário de 40 milhões de dólares ao longo de 30 anos de trabalho árduo. Quando conheceu Catherine em evento de caridade há 6 anos, pensou ter finalmente encontrado a família que sempre desejou. Catherine era elegante, recém-divorciada e trazia consigo Lily, sua filha de 19 anos. David acolheu ambas de coração aberto e até formou uma parceria comercial com Richard, o ex-marido de Catherine, que era consultor financeiro. 4 anos após um casamento aparentemente perfeito, David começou a notar sinais perturbadores. Catherine questionava insistentemente sobre seu testamento. Richard aparecia em casa com frequência sem motivo aparente, e conversas sussurradas cessavam quando ele entrava incômodos. Um dia, ao chegar em casa mais cedo, David escutou por acaso uma conversa entre Catherine e Richard. Ele confia em você completamente. Não vai ver isso chegando. Lily é a chave. Ele é mais suave com ela. A partir desse momento, David iniciou uma investigação silenciosa. Descobriu uma tentativa de acesso não autorizado à sua conta bancária principal, vinda de dentro de sua própria casa. Encontrou um acordo operacional fraudulento datado de meses atrás, tornando Richard sócio de 50% de sua empresa, um documento que ele nunca assinou conscientemente. Contratou um contador forense e uma investigadora particular, que em 10 dias lhe entregaram um dossiê devastador. Richard havia desviado quase $200 mil da empresa ao longo de 14 meses. Registros telefônicos mostravam centenas de ligações coordenadas entre Richard, Catherine e Lily. Mas o golpe mais cruel estava nas mensagens de texto recuperadas. Catherine havia instruído Lily a engravidar de Richard propositalmente como estratégia final de manipulação. Se você conseguir engravidar, isso garante tudo. Ele não vai lutar contra nós se houver um bebê envolvido. Ele é muito mole, escreveu Catherine. A gravidez não era um acidente, era uma arma. Durante 1 mês inteiro, David fingiu normalidade enquanto movia peças estratégicas nos bastidores. transferiu secretamente a propriedade de todos os seus imóveis para 3 funcionários de confiança através de uma estrutura de trust corporativa. Revogou o acordo fraudulento. Atualizou seu testamento, excluindo Catherine e Lily completamente. Preparou ordens de cessação e desistência. E esperou. A armadilha final veio quando Catherine tentou fazê-lo assinar uma procuração que lhe daria controle total sobre sua vida. Dias depois, em um domingo à tarde, David entrou em sua sala, encontrando Catherine, Lily e Richard esperando como um tribunal. Lily então proferiu a frase ensaiada: "Pai, me perdoe, estou grávida", do Richard. Em vez de desmoronar, David pegou seu telefone e chamou seu advogado, uma notária, sua gerente de escritório e 2 policiais de Phoenix. Na frente deles, entregou as ordens de cessação. Eles não tinham mais acesso a nada. O acordo fraudulento havia sido anulado. Richard estava sob investigação por peculato. E David não era mais dono de nada. Legalmente, tudo pertencia ao trust. "Vocês nunca foram minha família", disse calmamente. "Eram um investimento, e eu acabei de desinvestir." Naquela mesma noite, David voou para Vancouver e iniciou uma nova vida. Richard foi condenado por fraude e passou 18 meses preso. Catherine perdeu o pedido de pensão quando as provas de conspiração foram apresentadas. Lily. David nunca mais quis saber. Hoje, quase 2 anos depois, David vive modestamente em Vancouver, administrando uma pequena consultoria. Não é tão rico quanto antes, mas é livre. Sua mensagem final é clara: amor e família não são a mesma coisa. Família é uma escolha, e às vezes a escolha mais saudável é ir embora em silêncio, sem avisos, sem dar tempo para contra-ataques. Quando alguém tenta controlar sua vida disfarçando de cuidado, a melhor estratégia é proteger seus ativos, documentar tudo e desaparecer antes que seja tarde demais. A dignidade e a liberdade valem mais que qualquer fortuna.